Okay, everybody, so we're going to get Docker installed. If you already have Docker installed on your system, then you can skip this video. I'm going to walk through the installation instructions for a Windows machine, and I'll probably do a Ubuntu machine as well, or Ubuntu-based machine. So, all right, let's get going. So we will first go to docs.docker.com/toolbox. I think you can, you know, search for it. So, Docker Toolbox, and it should be one of the first options up here. So, install Docker Toolbox on Windows. So yeah, literally the first link, and it will take you straight to where you need to go. All right. So get Docker Toolbox for Windows, and if you have if you're on a Mac, then install Toolbox on Mac would be the next way to go. So, and it should be a pretty simple way to do it. So I've already downloaded this actually, so that way we don't have to sit here and wait for this download. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to my downloads. Alright, so I have it right here. Okay, well, another way to, if you already have a VirtualBox installed, then that will speed up this process as well. So, yes. Alright, so I'm going to uncheck that. Don't really care about helping Docker improve the toolbox. Okay, so this is fine. This is all fine as well. Okay, so then I'm going to click install VirtualBox with NDISS driver. So if you already have VirtualBox installed, you probably wouldn't need to do that, but I have wiped this computer of VirtualBox and Docker so that we could have a fresh install here. So next, and then install. Now this can take a little bit. I think it's in the past it's taken 5 to 30 minutes depending on how slow my machine is and how many things I'm doing at the same time. It's also downloading all the ISO files and things like that. So essentially what it's doing here is it's going to be downloading and creating a virtual machine that will be running in VirtualBox on your system, and it'll basically allow you to tap into the terminal of that or the command line of that virtual machine, so that on that virtual machine, Docker will be running. So it'll be essentially a fully fledged Linux environment, but everything will actually be a shared folder structure. So you'll be able to access all the files, anything you create in this virtual machine on your regular file system as well as within the VirtualBox. So so it is quite useful for doing Linux development on your personal computer, and I'll show you in a later video how to really leverage that into making development and testing against other Linux-based environments even easier. All right, so currently installing VirtualBox. Okay, so we are done. It's finished. It took me a couple minutes. I decided to cut the video so that we could wouldn't be a waste of your time. All right, so finish. We can view the shortcuts. All right, so the main thing that we'll be wanting to look at now is Docker Quickstart terminal. All right, you can ignore the kitematic for the moment. We might touch on this, but this is really for more not super novice users who don't want to learn the command line, and it's not really that helpful for you in the long run. Okay, so we'll start up the Docker Quickstart terminal, and if you're starting it up for the first time, it might say that something failed or that VirtualBox failed or something like that. So if that happens, just press enter, close Docker Quickstart terminal, and restart it again. And once you finally get it up, you'll get this little whale here, and that'll be the indicator that it is up. Your VirtualBox is running. And just to kind of show you how this all works, like I was saying before, you've got a VirtualBox that's been created. So you can see here, this default is the VirtualBox that is created. So here you see the preview right there of what it shows up the last time it was started up, and you can see the little whale. And again, like I was telling you before, you have the ability, it's a completely shared folder VM. So if you go into settings and then you look at shared folders, you can see that it's essentially mounted the users folder to the C users here. So essentially it's your whole computer it has access to, and the computer has access to its folders. All right. All right. So another way, once this VM is up, that you can access it is by opening another command line. So command.exe and typing in Docker machine SSH and then default. And default comes from the name of your Docker machine or your Docker VirtualBox here. So default. All right. And then once you click that, again, you get sort of the same type of interface here. And now you've got essentially the workings of a Linux computer right here at your fingertips. So if you do an ls, I'm not really sure what the default file is for that, some type of log file. But if you do an ls-l, looks like it is strangely formatting all of my stuff in this command line. So this kind of brings me to a good point here. I recommend not using command.exe. You can use it, but it does have issues, and you don't. Other issues include not just weird formatting, but also like full screening. That is the full screen on command.exe. So a good pro tip, if you will, is to go and use Commander. So Commander is a really good command line utility. Let's see, and none of these is what I wanted. So when let's see, Windows Commander, that is what I want, but not that one. Oh, I think it's this. Yes. There we go. All right. So Commander. CMDER. So yeah, this is what you want. I would recommend not installing it from Softonic, actually. Recommend installing it from their actual thing. Here we go, console emulator. So what this does is it allows you to have a very Linux-like experience. It basically has, from what I understand, a Windows implementation of all of the Linux commands. So like, for instance, you can use clear instead of CLS, and you can use SSH on the command line utility. You can use curl, all these sorts of things that you have access to. But it's not like a Cygwin. It's not actually creating its own walled off environment. These are literally just pure Windows implementations, so they work just fine. And then also all of your regular Windows commands work. And it also allows you to run Bash or Linux Bash scripts as well. So you can run sh, and then it will attempt to run it in Cygwin, I believe. So yeah, so you get a lot of flexibility, and it's just a whole lot nicer than the standard command line and even PowerShell or any other ones. This is definitely the leader. So I thoroughly recommend it. Another option is conemu, which I think Commander uses to some extent. So I've installed both, and this is what I use. So again, Docker machine, let's see, SSH default, and it will eventually get there. There we go. Alright, and now let's see if I do an ls-l. See, now it is nicely formatted. You can see this is the workings of what would seem to be a very normal Linux box. And this is all running on your computer. And the nice thing is it tells you exactly what Docker version you're running as soon as you log in. So that way you know what version you're on. So this is it. That's it. You've installed Docker to your local machine. So we are up next. For those of you who aren't installing it on Ubuntu, we'll be getting started with the Docker CLI. So just to give you a little bit of a taste, here's Docker V to get the Docker version. We'll get to learn a lot of the various commands that we'll be using for this first section, which will be running and building containers. But as a little bit of a challenge, you can start by trying to run the common Docker hello world. So try and research that, figure it out. I'll start the next lesson with that particular item. All right, thanks guys.